The following is a presentation of the Fan Media Network.
Welcome everybody to episode number 2. Before we get into the episode, just to give you guys a heads up, we are aware of the mistake that we made last time around. We do apologize. These things do happen. We knew that he went to Saskatchewan and that he went to the Huskies. We just got the wrong Huskies. We do apologize. Thank you for holding us accountable. We'll try harder for next time. Anyways, Thomas, episode 2, who do we have for a special guest today?
Yes, we do have a special guest. Taylor Dupuis is joining us right now. Taylor, we appreciate you hopping on. I'll give you a little background here before we get in. Taylor Dupuis played hockey for our team in Ryerson, had a pretty nice career in youth sports, and has now headed over to France to play professional hockey there. Taylor, awesome to have you on. How you doing, and how's France?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Appreciate you having me. These are always fun to do, and it's always nice to see you guys. So, yeah, things are good, man. Things are good. It's been kind of a roller coaster of a year, as I'm sure it's been with most people. But yeah, the hockey season's kind of been on and off, and but yeah, we've been steady since January, playing a shortened season. Yeah, now it's just a matter of kind of finishing the last month here without any issues and get back home safe.
It definitely seems like there's a whole lot going on in the world today when it comes to COVID. If you could just talk to us a little bit about the professional players bubble. Those of us outside of professional sports, we actually don't know exactly what it is that you guys are going through or what you guys are putting up with on the daily. What exactly is it like in there, and do you have any food?
Yeah, we're fed well and hydrated, so we're all good on that front. But I think it differs from each league. Some leagues have kind of gone to a bubble format. For example, our league, they split the league up in 2 divisions, just to limit travel, cut down on some expenses. So we're not so much in a bubble. There still is some travel going on, but right from the start of the season, there was questions up in the air whether the season was even going to happen or not. And then it ended up getting canceled in October until January. So there was 3-4 months that were up in the air that we didn't know what was going on. No one really had any answers, kind of just waiting on, the government, waiting to hear their press conferences to see what our next steps were. So, I think at this point, we're kind of just thankful that, we're still able to play, and we were able to practice during those 3-4 months and still kind of have a bit of a routine. And so, I mean, as much as lockdowns suck and this and that, I think we're pretty lucky that, we've still been able to practice and play throughout it all.
We're used to watching you play hockey over here in North America, but you've gone all the way over to another continent to play hockey. What's hockey like, and what's it like playing hockey in Europe? What's practice like, and how different is it than playing over here in North America?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is, the standard rink size here is massive. It's European hockey. Mind you, our rink is the only one in the league that is a regular sized ice, North American ice, I guess. But whenever we play on the road, it's different, man. It's there's so much more skating involved that you kind of, it takes a bit to get adjusted to. Even myself, the bigger ice, your angles are different. Guys are coming in different angles, a lot quicker. So I've had to get adjusted to that. But it's a shame that we're not playing without any fans right now, because some of the guys from last year, they said, the coolest part about playing over here is the fans, because it's such a soccer-based culture that the hockey fans have kind of taken that on too. Team chants throughout the whole game. You got the big drums, whatever it may be. So, it's too bad that I don't get to see that this year, but, hoping all goes well, and we'll be back here next year to kind of get the full experience.
All right, now, Taylor, the Big Ten championships are going on in Wisconsin. Beat out Penn State, the Cats 4-3 in overtime. What a goal. If you could just kind of take us into those locker rooms and on that ice from a goaltender's perspective, what's it like? What's it like playing in overtime games? What's the coach saying in the dressing room? What's going on inside there? What's it like?
Yeah, well, I think it kind of depends, what kind of game it is. If it's a regular season game, there's not as much pressure. But you talk about a Big Ten championship, yeah, there's definitely a different sense of urgency throughout the room, and I think everyone is aware of it. Now it's just a matter of how the team embraces it, and I think that's it's no secret. That's what makes the difference between a great team and a good team. Is if you have a room full of guys that kind of embrace those moments, most of the time you're going to come out on top. Whereas if you have guys that tend to grip their stick a little tighter and tend to shy away from those moments, it can play some games on your mind. It could be tough. But as a goaltender, it's there's obviously some pressure in the situation. But at the end of the day, you got to kind of learn how to block that out. And I think that's what makes the experienced guys so good, is that they're so good at blocking out all that noise mentally and just focus on the job at hand, that they don't really realize that they won a Big Ten or that they won the stake of the game until afterwards, until the puck does go in. But yeah, it's people call us crazy for being goalies, and I guess that's one of the reasons. So it's part of the job, I guess.
Well, how do you block that out as a goalie when you play these big games? Sometimes one game elimination, it can really come down to who has the better goaltender. So what do you do to prepare for games like that?
Yeah. Personally, I like to stay loose and try not to think about it as much. Obviously, you know what's at stake, but at the same time, you do have to understand it's just another game. It's same thing with any other big test that you're going to take, whether it's a driving test or a written exam, whatever it may be. While it may be worth a little more than the last one, it's still the same thing. It's still a written test. It's still, so you just got to treat it such as. You got to take the same approach, and that's why you build a routine. And that's, it's become such a big thing in the psychological aspect of the game. That's why teams are hiring, mental coaches to help their guys out, to develop those routines. You build those routines, then everything just becomes more automatic. And when things are automatic, things are good.
Well, speaking of things being good, let's hop across the pond, as it were, over to the NHL now. Taylor, speaking of having things good, there's been a few goalies who have had a great year in the NHL, not just good. You're a big fan of Marc-Andre Fleury of the Las Vegas Knights, Flower, as he's so eloquently called. Is he on your mind as a goalie having a great year?
Yeah, well, you know me too well, because I'll always give a little extra love to my boy Flower. He's the reason I wear 29, going back to his yellow pad days back with Pittsburgh. Aside from Flower, I think you got to show some love to the Colorado Avalanche and Philip Grubauer. Going back to his Washington days, and now that he's the main guy in Colorado, he's kind of he's taken it and run with it. And you see that 5 of his last 6 starts, 2 goals or less. And when you have an offense like Colorado's, 10 times out of 10, you're going to win those games. So, and then to have Hunter Miska behind him, and to kind of, be able to learn from him the next 4, 5, 6 years, whatever it may be, Colorado's in a good spot right now.
Yeah, a team that's not particularly in a good spot right now and who hasn't been in a good spot in the last about 2 weeks is the Buffalo Sabres, and they are struggling a lot. Ralph Kruger was fired, their head coach. A team like the Buffalo Sabres, who's lost over 10 games in a row, Ralph Kruger gets fired. Taylor, what does this do to a team? It's got to be hard to instill some confidence in these guys right now.
Oh man, you talk about losing 3, 4 straight. And you kind of see it as a bump in the road, but you get up to the 9, 10, 11 game mark, and to go on a stretch like the Sabres have, it's got to be tough. You start pointing fingers, you start looking around, and now that the coach is gone, you got to think it's coming back on the players now, because there's one less guy to blame. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Sabres do in the next little stretch here. But I mean, you look at before the season, they bring in a guy like Taylor Hall. There's optimism with Eichel staying, and now that seems to be all out the window. Now it's Eichel wants out, Hall's on his way out. Now they don't have a coach, so I don't know what they're gonna do or what's gonna happen. But I know something's gonna have to give eventually. What do you guys think? What's Buffalo missing?
Well, let's not get too head over heels into the Buffalo situation. We do have a Buffalo Sabres special coming up with Taylor Dupuis as a special guest, so do stick around for that episode. It is coming out here in a couple of days right after this one. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are enjoying this, please don't forget to smash that like button. Enjoy the share button as well. Let us know in your comments as to what you think is good, what you think is not good, what we can improve, so on and so forth. NHL Fan Media Show 789 at gmail.com, and we'll be sure to write you back as soon as we possibly can. We're also on Instagram. Hit us up with a DM. Let us know on there as well. There's some interesting content. We're putting Taylor through the lightning round on there, so please let us know on there as well what you're thinking. Taylor, there's been so many great games this past week in the NHL, across the world really, but in the NHL is where we're more focused here. Any games pop out in your mind of like a game of the week type thing?
Yeah, big time. And I think with the new division formats that the NHL has gone to, you've seen a lot more, intensity in these games. Teams are playing each other so many times that, guys are just sick of seeing the guys that they're lined up against. And it comes out and it shows. And I think, you look at Edmonton, Calgary, being in that North Division, that powerful North Division, you're almost guaranteed to see fireworks whenever these two teams meet. The Battle of Alberta, the Cassian Kachuk drama, the goalie fight, Mike Smith and I can't think of the other name, but a couple of years ago, this rivalry goes way back, and whenever they play, you're bound to get some scoring with the high-powered offense of Edmonton. You're bound to see some bodies get thrown around with Lucic and some big bodies on Calgary.
On the topic of the Edmonton Oilers, they play the Jets. They have a couple games coming up against them. That's going to be massive to watch as they're duking it out for second place right now in the Scotia North Division. But also the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Chicago Blackhawks have a couple games this week as well. And for the Chicago Blackhawks, a team that is in fourth place right now, which is a playoff spot in the new format, they're going up against the Tampa Bay Lightning, which is a team that won the Stanley Cup last year and is probably, Taylor, going to be a pretty good test for them.
Yeah, well, I think you look at favorites to win the Cup again this year. Tampa Bay's got to be right up there. And on the opposite side of things, you got Chicago, who I think you ask anybody, we're supposed to be right there with Detroit and Ottawa, right in the basement of the NHL. And right from the get-go of the season, Chicago came out and started to turn some heads, and I think it started with their goalie, Kevin Lankinen, who put up some big performances early, and kind of changed the tides or changed the perception on that Blackhawks team. You have your captain that's out for the year, hopefully not more. You get Seabrook that retires. There's a lot of question marks with the Blackhawks, and to see them, do what they're doing right now and be in a playoff spot, especially going up against Tampa Bay, 8+ times in a season. What they're doing is pretty impressive. So, it's going to be interesting to see what they do down the stretch here. And I'm pulling for them. I hope they can surprise, get in the playoffs. And everyone knows once you're in the playoffs, it's anyone's game. So, I'm pulling for them. And you touched on Edmonton and Winnipeg. Those two teams are fighting it out for second place in the North. Tied in points. Edmonton with a couple games in hand. That division is going to come down right to the last game. I think Toronto's kind of secured their spot up top, but 2, 3, 4 is there's going to be some battles there. So I think anytime you see those playoff teams compete, there's going to be some intensity.
Couldn't agree more, Taylor, and it's going to be an interesting time in the NHL forthgoing, and looking forward here Taylor has a special gift that he'd like to give away to one of our lucky viewers. If they can answer 3 questions for us. Number 1, what is your name? So you got to tell us your name. But number 2, what teams did Taylor Dupuis play for in the OHL? So make sure that you mention all of the teams. There is more than one. And finally, what team is Taylor currently playing for out in France? So be sure to let us know. Email your answers to NHL Fan Media Show .789@gmail.com. Please send in your emails before March 25th, before our NWHL playoff special, as we have that coming out that day as well. So we won't be able to choose a winner before then. And please do send in your answers as fast as possible. Taylor, thank you so very much for joining us today. We do appreciate you hopping on with us and discussing the NHL and goalies. For Thomas West and Brandon Cassidy, this has been the NHL Fan Show on Fan Media. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time.
To host a fan show or appear as a fan on a fan show, simply create a profile on Fan Media's iOS app or website. Select your teams and make a short intro video on your phone. Show hosts, reporters, former players, and superfans can use our Get Verified feature and make an intro video as well, and our mobile newsroom staff will reach out.